Ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk has completely obliterated NBC or MSNBC. And what's taken place, ladies and gentlemen, is that they tried to go after him, and instead he highlighted all of their scandals and controversies. So he tweets out, NBC basically saying Republicans are 1930s and 1940s Germans. And then he says, same organization that covered up Hunter's laptop story had a certain Hollywood director story early and ended that story and built Matt Lauer his office to utilize for the most despicable criminal activity. Lovely people. I'm not actually reading the actual tweet verbatim. You can go to Elon Musk's Twitter profile because the tweet perhaps could be against the guidelines here. But he absolutely decimated them. And the reason is that they tried desperately in the most futile and sad and pathetic manner to disparage Musk because he purchased Twitter and is now allowing all different viewpoints, which is what the First Amendment is about. He's allowing all different viewpoints on the platform. He's not going to suspend or ban people for views that fall outside of the prevailing paradigm of thought. There's nothing wrong with that. Dissent is very important. Even if you disagree with someone's viewpoint, it's very important to listen to them or to be able to defeat their views with rational thought, logic, reason, discourse, debate, dialogue. Everything Democrats despise because their ideas don't win out. They can't really defend their ideas. Look at what's taking place around the country. Crime, homelessness, all up. Inflation is through the roof. We have a contracting GDP. We're heading into a recession. And we're about to experience a devastating stock market crash as interest rates increase. Where GDP is contracting as interest rates increase. Does that make any sense to you? We have an economy that's contracting now, and the worst geopolitical nightmare in modern European history, while President Mashed Potato Brains is in office, and Democrats control the House and the Senate. The adults are in charge. Literally everything is collapsing, but at least Trump isn't tweeting. And the go-to for Democrats and morally superior, wonderful, highly educated liberals is that, oh, you're a 1930s, 1940s German. Well, Yad Vashem in Israel actually tweeted to AOC, learn more about the history. Like, you had one of the most famous museums, most important museums in the world on that topic, if not the most important. Tweeting AOC, telling her to learn more about the topic, the history that she distorted. I wrote a Jerusalem Post article on that. You cannot utilize, and that's below in the pinned comment. I wrote a Jerusalem Post op-ed on how AOC completely distorted and warped historical record for cheap political gain. But that's what they do. Democrats utilize the suffering of my people, of your people, of all people to their political gain. And the problem is that a great many, they talk about like Trump supporters not being educated, but they're the people who possess the least wisdom vote blue no matter who and are just accepting of a distortion of historical record in the manner that AOC, in the manner exhibited by AOC. So what they'll do is they'll completely distort historical record, call somebody a 1930s and 40s German, while at the same time preventing speech, worshiping intelligence agencies, pushing for interventions and military quagmires. I mean, doing everything that correlates with the 1930s and 1940s Germans, but at the same time just leveling, oh, we're good people, we're wonderful people. Well, why are you so afraid of Elon Musk opening up Twitter to debate and dialogue? There are existing laws protecting people. So utilize existing laws. They protect people. Hit subscribe, by the way, to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below. I have a very, very important segment on the 50 basis point hike while we have contracting GDP. Stock Market Crash is ahead, unfortunately. I predicted all of that in my Federalist article and everything, all the terrible economic, the economic catastrophe we were seeing today. But ladies and gentlemen, he then goes on to write, so he basically exposes pretty much all the recent, or a bunch of the recent controversies that NBC's had. And the problem is that you have people, and hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support my Patreon below. Your support is greatly appreciated. You have people who have no right to judge anyone. They believe that Trump was installed by the Kremlin, and that if they put a little emoji next to their Twitter profile, I don't have Twitter, I don't have Facebook, for this reason, for this one of many reasons, but they think if they put a little profile next to their name or a little hashtag that they're supporting a certain cause, they don't make any contribution to humanity on Twitter. There is no contribution to humanity on Twitter. It's currently, well, hopefully very soon it'll change to a normal platform, but it's a dystopian nightmare of morally superior, highly educated, almost always apoplectic liberal Democrats who want to save the planet as Biden pumps strategic oil reserves because they ended economic activity, completely decimating supply and demand and supply chains and supply and demand projections for industries that run on commodities like the oil and gas industry. So you can't just end economic activity, go from record lows in unemployment to 22 million people unemployed because you obsessed over you-know-what, and all the smartest people and bureaucrats and experts said, we have to tank the U.S. economy, and they were all too happy. Well, I have to do so. Gosh, we got to get Trump out of office. It's all his fault. More people lose their lives in the first year of mashed potato brains, our president. But then that's not his fault, but it's Trump's fault. And then they turn back on the economy and they say, well, we're going to go ahead and save the planet and infrastructure. None of that makes a dent on inflation that's skyrocketing because you ended economic activity. And then you got sued. The mashed potato brains administration is getting sued by 14 states and oil and gas associations. Within the lawsuits, they say your policies are causing a disruption in supply chain and prices, causing energy prices to go through the roof. So you have the morally superior, wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrats who want to save the planet. They single-handedly caused fossil fuels to go skyrocketing in price. But you can't explain this to them because explaining basic, simple concepts is like teaching physics to a house cat. It won't work. It won't work. They don't understand. They don't care. Everything is Trump. Trump tweeted, he's worse, he's mean, he's terrible. Biden has literally said worse to journalists, Peter Doocy being an example, but Trump is worse. And the economy is in the tank. Foreign policy is a catastrophe. But Trump is worse. He's bad for democracy because he doesn't care what people say. He doesn't care if people express their opinions on social media. He actually wants people to express their opinions. He presided over record low unemployment, record low black and Latino unemployment, all a fact, allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses, which no doubt AOC would oppose that executive order. I wonder why, and others on the left. The Doha Agreement he negotiated to end the Lincoln Project, Bill Kristol, militant foreign policy of the Democratic Party and the Bush administration. Biden completely botched that. Those 13 Americans should be alive today. Those 100 plus Afghans should be alive today. And then he was the first president to step foot in North Korea. President Moon Jae-in stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. He signed the Abraham Accords, negotiated that. Our economy was so good we could level tariffs at China. We could never do that now. And the sanctions we're leveling, well, let's not even get into that because it's actually hurting our country. So we had a much better society, much better economy, much better foreign policy under Trump, categorically. Did the media and NBC and MSNBC and all of these pundits completely melt down every time Trump said something on Twitter? Yes, they did. And so you're talking about a billionaire now who thinks outside of the box with Tesla and SpaceX and going and living on different planets. And you might not agree with him. You might think, well, you know what? That's he's a visionary. Elon, a visionary doesn't play by the rules, doesn't live by the prevailing mentality, doesn't care about people shun him, if people disown him or shun him or try to marginalize him or disparage him, but he's going to, in a chess game or in a strategic battle, he's going to say, okay, the biggest arrow that Democrats have in their quiver, the biggest arrow, the most important tool they have is Twitter. It is a way to harness emotion. It is a way to harness emotion. It is a way to amplify certain emotions while at the same time suppressing other emotions, depending on what political party you're in. Okay? You have to understand that the way Twitter works is the following, okay? The way Twitter works is that it used to be a platform where you could just communicate. Then, in a debate with Tim Pool and an executive at Twitter, the debate went, well, you know what? Your algorithm or the way you deal with different political parties is different. With conservatives, you silence them. With liberals, you allow them to get away with what conservatives couldn't get away with. No, that's not true. We don't silence people. We use a rubric or a metric or a program or a computer model, and we don't really care about what political ideology you have. But if the algorithm or the database or the computer program or the model sees that somebody has said something that's outside of the norm or guidelines or protocol of the platform, then they're suspended. It just so happens that the metric or the rubric always sides with one political party. It's not rocket science. I'm not even explaining it in the correct manner, like the way a software engineer would explain it or a Twitter employee would explain it. But if you are pointing to, well, it's not our fault. This is the algorithm we created. You created an algorithm. You created a way to simply say, well, we're not really picking on Republicans or conservatives or Trump supporters. We just have to abide by what we created that specifically doesn't allow people on the right or conservatives to speak their mind. So it's not really our fault. It's actually what we created that is amplifying left-leaning viewpoints while at the same time suppressing conservative viewpoints. But we created that rubric, and we have to adhere to it. So we're just adhering to it, but we're not picking sides, okay? The country of India almost kicked them out. Twitter has lost legal immunity for user posts in India, government argues, okay, over failure to comply with new rules. I have a great deal of respect for the country of India, great deal of respect for Narendra Modi and his government, telling Twitter that they cannot mess with the politics of the country. And that's what Twitters have done in this country. All Twitter is a way to amplify the Steele dossier while suppressing Hunter's emails. It's a way to amplify propaganda and lies from one political party, and that political party obviously is the Democratic Party, and it's a way for conservative viewpoints or Trump supporters or President Trump or Elon Musk or anyone who falls outside of the paradigm of thought of The Atlantic or the New York Times or BuzzFeed or the Washington Post. It's a way for them to silence people. And it's not working anymore because the thing is their ideas don't resonate. There's only so many times you could retweet Medicare for all. We need Medicare for all without realizing Democrats don't want Medicare for all. They will never in a million years, as they cheat Bernie Sanders every 4 years, ever implement or pass a Medicare for all plan. Ever in a million years. Never. But you will have people who will be, petrified, afraid of losing friends and family or being disowned by their Facebook or Twitter or Instagram groups. And so they'll just say, well, you know what? Gosh, vote blue no matter who. At least we'll have one. Maybe there's a chance in the future for Medicare for all or for Democrats to address the systemic issues that they help cause, which gets back to the fact that our economy is in the tank. So you think maybe the systemic issues that Democrats pontificate about on Twitter are getting worse under their watch? But this is too difficult for them to understand. You get it? It's too difficult. They don't want to. If they looked in the mirror, they turn to stone because of the hypocrisy and duplicity that they exhibit within their political paradigm. Anyway, Elon Musk is the man because he knows that they're going to be using Twitter against him and Tesla and SpaceX and he's not going to stand for it. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. He completely decimated, obliterated NBC and MSNBC. Hit subscribe. Thank you so very, very, very much. I'll be back in a